Hello everyone, I have another long video for you today where we are going to fix the IK in the advanced locomotion system. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this one out, but here it is, and tomorrow I will be uploading a video on fixing the ragdoll. That turned out to be a bit of a longer process than I thought it would be, so I split this video into two more. But that'll be up tomorrow, so do not worry. Let's get into it. So, before we begin fixing the IK, let's take a look at the current hand IK situation. In the advanced locomotion system, the hand IK attaches items to the character's hands. And right now, well, that simply doesn't happen. No matter what I choose, nothing gets attached to the character's hands. So, to fix this, we will create a completely new IK system for the advanced locomotion system, and that is because the virtual bone IK system will not work with the MetaHuman that doesn't have IK bones to retarget the ALS animations to begin with. So, without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing we're going to do is actually something that I forgot to do in the previous video. We're going to go into the MetaHuman animation blueprint, and let's just close out of everything and start over. We do not need all these tabs open. And we're going to open up the anim graph, and right here, the spine bones are not assigned correctly, because if you remember, we have spine 03 as retargeted to spine 5, spine 2 retargeted to spine 3, and well, spine 1 is the same, and that's that. And next, let's go ahead and compile and save. We're going to add some sockets to the skeleton. If we go into the MetaHumans folder, common, and the path for my MetaHuman here is female, medium, normal weight, body, MetaHuman base skeleton. Now we're going to add, as I said, I think before, sockets to the hands. So if we let's just search hands here and make it easy. There's so many bones in these hands, it can be hard to find the actual hand sometimes. So, just right click on the left hand, add socket, and we're going to rename this to hand L object. I'm going to do the exact same thing for the right hand, add socket, and rename it to hand R object. When that is done, you can save and close out of the skeleton for now. Next, we are going to replace the, well, in the character blueprint, if you go, well, let's close out of all this too from the last video. And if we go to our functions, and I think it's right here, held object, there's update held object function here, and you can click on this attached hand, and right here it's trying to attach objects to virtual bones that we do not have in our skeleton. We're going to rename the RHS IK handgun to hand R object. And we're going to rename this one. Let's make sure we also get rid of that VB to hand L object. And now this is not going to be close to working, but let's make sure what we've done so far is. And it is. The rifle is attached to the right hand, which is a good start, but as you can see, it's not attached correctly to the hand. To fix that, well, we need to first put together our new IK system and then adjust the positioning of some sockets. So this IK system is going to either make the left hand follow the right hand or the right hand follow the left hand. So let's take the rifle as an example. You attach the rifle to the character's right hand, and the left hand needs to also be attached to the rifle, because the rifle is attached to the right hand whatever the right hand does, the rifle does. So the left hand needs to either follow the rifle or the right hand. And it's easier to have the left hand follow the right hand inside the animation graph, but we can still put a socket on the actual rifle skeletal mesh as to determine where we want the left hand to go. So we're going to navigate into the advanced locomotion, props, meshes, and our M4A1 skeletal mesh. Now we're going to right click on the root. We're going to add a socket, and we're going to name this RH. And for the time being, let's move it over here. We can adjust its position later. I'm sorry, we're going to name it LH. My bad. So let's save, close out, and now let's go into the animation blueprint, and let's disconnect the hand IK. I'm going to drag all these nodes down here for the time being. I'm going to shorten this, lengthen this, and I'm going to add a new cached pose. And I'm going to call this before IK. And now in the hand IK, we're going to add a new state machine. And I'm doing this just so that things can stay concise inside of the animation graph. A linked anim layer would also work as well. You can move all this over, connect the state machine to the linked anim layer foot IK, and let's name this hand IK. Now if we go into the state machine, let's just add a state, call it IK. And now inside of the state, we're going to add a fabric IK node. We're going to duplicate it. And now we're going to add a transform modify, if I can type it correctly, bone node. And we're going to also duplicate this. Oops, connected these up wrong. There we go. And now these are the only actual IK nodes, or, well, bone altering, translation, manipulation kind of nodes that we will need for our IK system. Let's go ahead and grab our cached pose. What do we call it? Before IK. We can connect it up here. And now, in the fabric node, the first fabric node, we're going to set the effector target to hand R, tip bone to hand L, and the root bone to upper arm L. We're going to set the bone in the transform node to the left hand. And we are going to not expose any of this except for the rotation, and the rotation is going to replace existing and be inside bone space. We're going to do the same for this. It would probably be a better idea to set all the settings and then duplicate it, but oh well. Well, this one's actually for hand R. And we do the same thing in this fabric node except backwards. The effector target is hand L, tip bone being hand R, and the root bone being upper arm R. And so these two nodes, let's add a comment, and this is when an object is attached to the right hand. We can add another comment to this, and this is when an object is attached to the left hand. So next, we need some way to determine if an object is attached to the right hand or the left hand, so that we can then change the alphas. So let's compile, save, and head back into the character blueprint. Now, there is a function here. If we search through all of this, and it's called onOverlayStateChanged. Click on it, and now we're going to grab the enumerator. What was it called? Overlay state, I believe. Yep. And if it is equal to the bow, because that is the only skeletal mesh that is being attached to the left hand, we're going to handle the objects that are not skeletal meshes a little bit differently without the IK. So just the bow here. And if the overlay state is the bow, we're going to set a new variable called left hand to true. We'll connect that up, and now whenever there's a change in the overlay state, and it needs to know whether the right hand or left hand is the main hand that the object is being attached to, we just use the overlay state enumerator. And if you need to add more of these, or you're expanding ALS and adding more items, and some of them go into the left hand, more skeletal meshes, you can just add an OR, add some pins, and do the same thing. Copy this, paste it, connect it up, and select a different state. But we just have the bow. Looks like, yep, undoing does get rid of that. Well, I can just delete that though anyway. Okay, so compile, save, back in the MetaHuman Anim blueprint. Let's go to the update graph. We're going to go to the update character info. We're going to add a pin onto the sequence, and we're going to cast to the ALS MetaHuman character blueprint. For the object input, we are going to get our character reference. And now, as the ALS MetaHuman character blueprint, we're going to get the value of the left-hand variable that we created. And we are going to set a new variable with the same name inside of the character blueprint. Now we're going to drag off from here, and we're going to get the skeletal mesh. And the skeletal mesh is not the character, it's the skeletal mesh of the object that is being held. So if we drag off from this, we can get socket transform, and we're going to get transform in world space of RH, and the socket transform in world space of LH. Now we're going to drag off and get our mesh, which is our character. And we're going to transform to bone space. And this is how we get the left or right hand to follow the opposite hand while still being in the position of the weapon socket. So, and it's the most efficient way to do this that I have found. The other ways, or just using these socket transforms, things can go a bit wrong. If you just use these socket transforms, the fabric IK node won't work. You'll have to use a regular 2-bone IK, and the left or right hand will lag behind the other hand if you do it that way. So now let's duplicate this. This top one is going to be hand R, and this bottom one is going to be hand L. We're going to split these struct pins, connect location and rotation. And now we're going to create a new variable, and it is going to be called RH, another variable called LH, and these will be transform variables. The reason they were transform variables as default is because I had to re-record this section of the video. I forgot something and went on a wild goose chase for a drop-down menu that I didn't set right, and I'll show you what that is in a second here. You'll have to, of course, probably change those from booleans to transforms on your own. So now we can connect these. Let's compile and save. And now let's go back into our IK. Oh, error. We did not connect this. Okay, compile, save again, IK state, and now in the fabric nodes, this maintain local rotation relative to parent. Actually, that's what needs to stay the same. The component space needs to be changed to bone space. Now, we can grab our left hand and our right hand. We can grab a split, a break transform for both of these. We can plug our transforms into our fabric nodes and our rotations into our transform modify nodes. And now that is done, we need to control the alphas. So left hand into select float. If it is the left hand, we will, well, if the left hand is leading, then we want it to choose 0 for the right hand, because for the attached to right hand section here, because it's attached to the left hand. And we're going to do the exact opposite over here. But if we left it like this, let's say the character is in the default pose, well, the character would still have their hands doing something weird like the character is over here. So to fix that, we're going to get our overlay state. We're going to test if it is equal to either the rifle state or the pistol two-hand state. And if it is equal to either of these, well, we're going to take the result of this OR through another select. Basically saying if it is equal to either of these, multiply this float value by 1. Otherwise, multiply it by 0. So let's just get ourselves a multiply, a float times float. We'll connect these and plug that into here. We can copy this entire section, paste it over here, get rid of these two nodes, connect these, set this to bow, multiply, and replace these. And now our alphas should be set up correctly. Let's test that. If we hit play, and grab the rifle, our hand does something weird. Our left hand. Or no, that's our... Yeah, our left hand does something weird. So let's debug. So, 0, 1, 1, 0. We know this works because it was not doing that until we pulled out the rifle. This should be working correctly. Let's check our skeletal. Let's check. I said skeletal because I was reading this. I almost said what I read. So let's check this whole thing. So we're getting the socket transform of the right hand socket here. We're transforming this to the bone space of the right hand, and there's our problem. This should be transformed to the bone space of the left hand, and this should be transformed to the bone space of the right hand. There's our problem. So you have to be super exact with these names, because do the wrong hand and everything falls apart somewhere. So now the left hand is where the socket is at, and you might not remember that being where the socket is at. Like I said, I had to re-record that, and I think I forgot. So now, well, I forgot to move the socket back, as I was debugging. So now, what we will do is we will eject, and we will open up our MetaHuman skeleton. And let's let's pull up our object sockets. Let's see. Okay, now they're coming up. So let's first manipulate our hand, our object. I'm gonna take this to the side, and as we can see, the rifle is rotated the wrong way. So let's first fix that. So we need to rotate the Z. Let's rotate it 90 degrees. And now let's get ourselves a little closer here. Let's go into translation mode. Let's move this forward a little. Over to the side. And this is the exact same process that we'll be doing with the bow, the pistol. We're just going to be adjusting the pistol. We'll be adjusting the pistol's left-hand socket. This socket we only have to adjust one time here, and let's slow down our camera a bit. Get under this arm and take a look. So I think what we should do is go back into the rotation mode and rotate this back in this direction once. And then back into transform mode. Oops, wrong way. Scoot it a bit, right, like that maybe. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for the video. I don't want to bore you all with this. So now on to fixing the left hand. So let's close out of that, and let's go to Advanced Locomotion V4, Props, Meshes, and the M4A1 rifle. Let's leave it here on this screen. If I pulled onto my other screen, you all won't be able to see. So now we're going to rotate the left-hand socket. Wrong axis. Around to maybe about here. And now let's go ahead and transform, and let's pull it back to about here. And pull it over. And back. Oh, no, wrong way. Well, close enough for the video. I think you all get the idea. So now let's possess, and as you can see, the rifle is tilted a bit to the side, so you just need to rotate that a bit more. This part is already taken up so much time. We're just going to move on. But so I hope that gives you sort of a good idea of how to get these sockets moved around. You do the exact same thing with the left hand on the pistol. Add the LH socket and move it to get the left hand in position. We're going to go ahead and, well, bow is actually done the exact same way as well. But we'll go ahead and do it together because it's attached to a different hand. And then we'll move on to getting the regular objects set up. So let's go into our animation blueprint, our update graph, and the reason I'm doing this. If we go into our overlay states and our bow here, just so the bow stays drawn and it's easier to move stuff around and watch without the character moving the bow around, we're going to copy that, paste it in here, and connect it. Now if we hit play, go to the bow, V to debug mode, oh, okay, looks like something with the spine rotation isn't working, and I know exactly where we need to go to fix that. Back to our MetaHuman character, our event graph. This node we disconnected in the last video. Reconnect it right there. Compile. Save. That was a total accident. If we play. Bow. That's better already. Okay. But it'll be even better once we actually get the hands on this the right way. So let's eject. And let's open up our bow. The first thing we're going to do is grab our string mid and add a socket and name it RH. And you can see our right hand jumps to that socket. Now we're going to take, we'll leave that there. We need to adjust the left hand socket in our character before we mess with the right hand socket. So let's get to our character skeleton again. There we go. And now let's rotate this. And we're going to get the bow positioned in the hand correctly. It's a bit of a process. I think we're getting pretty close here, close enough for the video. Of course, you'll probably want to spend a bit more time trying to make sure this is perfect. There we go. Now it's starting to look right. Okay. Much better. So now we can save, close out of this. And did I close out of the bow skeleton? Okay. If I had a nickel for every time I closed out of something I needed to open up a couple minutes later, I'd have a lot of nickels, I think. So my right hand is already rotated really close to where it needs to be. We could probably just leave it like that, or I can, purpose of the video. And let's go and reconnect this. Compile and save. And look at that. Our rifle, our bow, a pistol one hand will work by default without the IK. Pistol two hands, need some adjustment. I'll let you guys do that. Oops. Oh, what's that? What happened there? Oh, first person isn't working. Okay, we'll fix that too in this video at the end here. So now that we finally have the whole skeleton IK system made, let's take a look at this. Well, our torch is upside down. Our binoculars aren't in the right spot. If we can... oops, I keep missing the wrong thing. Our box is in the wrong spot and our barrel is in the wrong spot. So I'm going to demonstrate how we fix that with, let's take the box. The box is attached to the right hand, which is totally fine. The problem is it's attached to the right hand at its origin. The best way to fix this would be to change the origin of the box. Instead, because that requires going into an application like Blender and doing all that. You guys can do that if you want. What I'm going to do here is just add a socket to, guess what, the thing we just closed out of, our character skeleton. And you'll just have to add a socket for each item that's positioned differently. That's why changing the origin is a much better idea. So I think it's through here. Yes, okay. So now if we add a socket onto the right hand, we can call this box. And this video is taking quite a while, so let's just throw it there. And of course, you can take more time to position it. And now if we go back into the MetaHuman character, attached to hand, we have this here. So what we want to do is we want to grab our enumerator, what's it called? Overlay state. Get overlay state if it's equal to box. And if that is true, let's go into select. And we're going to select, can I select name? No, select string. Yes, I can do select string. So we will, if it is, box. Well, if it is not box, we can connect that. And if it is box, we can say box. That's what we named it, isn't it? Yep. And we can convert that back into a name. And we just continue to build, and you can just continue to build these up for the other items. It's the exact same process. Now, if we go to our box, as you can see, you need to, well, change the socket some, but that works. Alright, one more thing I almost forgot. We need to get the first person camera working. I'm inside the MetaHuman skeleton. I'm going to keep this open, and I'm going to open the advanced locomotion mannequin skeleton. I am then going to navigate to these 3 sockets underneath the head, and I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them here. Save, and if we play, I try to go into first person, it works. If you made it this far, awesome, you've done it. You've replaced the IK system inside the advanced locomotion system with one that will work well with the MetaHuman. In the next video, we'll be fixing the ragdoll. If you enjoyed the video, if you found the information here useful, please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I'll be putting more videos on this channel in the future. Thank you.